Hello, my Fire Legions, your Fire King Renegade here. Now, before I start this War of Deku's Alucard Part 1, you may be wondering, wait, why is this Part 1? Didn't you say you were going to upload it in one of your live streams? I did. And then I forgot because of schoolwork, and then I accidentally deleted this bitch. So I have to re-record it. Now, to apologize for all of this bullfuckery, I'm going to make Part 1 a little longer. Basically, we be going up to the USJ attack, while covering everything else, and it's probably going to change a lot. So yeah, such as Deku's origin story. I said everything was going to be up to kin to the point of the Sludge Villain attack, but I'm changing that. So, Deku's not born to Inko. Well, he is, but that's not who's going to raise him. He's going to be raised by some... Basically, Deku is stolen from Inko. He's kidnapped by the... I was going to say the Major, but then I was like, nah. I don't want to put Deku through that bullshit. If you don't know what Major is, he's a short and fat asshole from Hellsing. If you watch Hellsing Ultimate, you know who the Major is. Or in the original, like Hellsing. I don't know if he's in there, though. But yeah. So, Deku is kidnapped by, I'm just going to say, a family that doesn't have the best track record of, taking care of kids. Deku has a sister, but she's a spoiled brat. Like, this is, like, his forced adopted sister. So, Deku is still quirkless. He also gets abused. Plus, his sister's an asshole and blames him for everything she does. So, let's just say Deku's living Harry Potter's life a lot worse. So, Deku doesn't go to the same school as Bakugo. He gets sent off to this private school because it is a rich family. Now, because he does go to a private school, they, whole thing about it. They don't want child services to come in, take Deku away. So they pretend like they're good parents when they're really not to Deku. Deku will get his comeuppance. Don't worry. He is Alucard after all. I got something real good special planned for them. So, Deku also gets bullied in the private school, and that's when Deku takes up self-defense and fist fighting. So, he fights off the boys in his school easily. So, Deku has a bad, he's seen as a bad boy reputation in the school. He can't fight off the parents, though, because, they are a bit taller and a little bit stronger. So, skip ahead to Deku's end in middle school. Deku gets attacked by, well, not end of middle school, but kind of like beginning. Deku gets attacked by a vampire. Now, instead of Deku, not Deku, instead of Alucard coming to the rescue, it's Ceres. And Ceres gives Deku the same ultimatum Alucard gave him. Either be killed by the vampire, or become one of her. But she's a lot more nice about it, and she says, if you don't want to become, I'll try to save you. And Deku's just like, do it. So, Ceres shoots through Deku to kill the vampire behind him that's holding him as a human shield. Then, Ceres turns Deku into a vampire. And Deku goes missing for 7 months. The family ain't worried about him. They pretend to be, but they're not. And Alucard and Ceres train Deku. Alucard training Deku in the powers of being a vampire. And Ceres training Deku in firearms. Now, Deku can conjure a sword. The sword looks like Finn's dog father. Jake's father, Jeremiah, I think his name was, had this demon sword with demon blood. That's what the sword looks like. Same color and everything. So yeah, so Deku can summon the sword. He also has a tattoo on his hand of both the sword. Like, they came after he figured out he had the sword. And Deku returns home after 7 months because, he's deciding it's time for a little revenge. Alucard ain't gonna stop him. And as I said when I first recorded this video, Deku has no weaknesses. So every vampire weakness imaginable, except for the silver, is gone. Silver can still kill a vampire, but, it doesn't work on Deku or Alucard or Ceres. I'm gonna say because, since spell Alucard's name backwards is Dracula, since Dracula is the almighty powerful vampire god, he isn't weak to silver, and he can pass. And if his powers if he passes his powers on to someone, and that person passes his powers, their powers on, then they can become a vampire. Like, I'm talking about, like, Alucard has two options. So doesn't Ceres and Deku. They can either pass on half the powers, which gives them the weakness to silver, or all the powers, which gets rid of the weakness. So Deku isn't weak to silver, or sun, or fire, or holy water, or holy blade. Deku can't die. I'm just gonna say that. So, yeah. Hold on. I will be right back. So, I'm back. As I was saying, Deku can't die. And Deku right now only has one gun. A black 45 Colt 1911. 8 clip capacity with a silver bullet with a mercury charge. Also a C4 kicker. Basically, that thing's a deadly ass bullet. I just took Red Hood's bullet from the Injustice 2 because he says I forget it, but he said that it was an explosive mercury charged with a C4 kicker. And he says one of the fastest and deadliest bullets he had in his arsenal. And I made it silver. Also, it's black tipped. And the 45 Colt 1911 has a longer barrel than its original one. Not too long, so it's just a bit longer. It's not like Alucard's gun long. It's just like a bit longer. So that thing's traveling super fast. So that thing's gonna rip through anything. Also, I'm gonna say this: hiding behind metal, you're gonna need a pretty thick piece of metal. It can penetrate a tank if it wanted to. So yeah, that's one of Deku's guns. He doesn't have the other one yet. I have a plan for that one. But yeah, so Deku's clothes and style of his hair has changed. Deku eyes are red along with his hair's become a black with like a red tint. Deku wears mostly black clothes as well. It's black and red, that's all he wears. So, black jeans, black and red shoes, a black and red trench coat, black and red hoodie. So Deku has a hood. Deku also has black sunglasses with a red tint. So he can hide his vampiric eyes. Also, Hellsing did track down... Deku does work for the Hellsing organization, but he still wants to become a hero. So they've kind of said, okay, become a hero, and you can use that as a cover to go hunt down ghouls and shit like that, and other vampires. And Integra is fine with this too. Alucard and Sailor aren't going to become one because they hide it pretty easily. But having Deku kind of be able to take down ghouls whenever they need it, it would be good. So, you know, Deku doesn't have to hide as much once he becomes a hero. Ghouls are known throughout the world, so heroes are allowed to kill ghouls. Like, the government has said that, they think it's someone with a quirk, like, awful one, but it's not. It's just that it's because of vampires. You know. The way ghouls are made in the Hellsing universe is when someone's drained of all their blood, they become, you know, they become ghouls. Or zombies, or whatever the fuck you want to call them. They call them ghouls in the anime. So, Deku returns to his home to kind of get rid of the people that kidnapped him. And put him through 15 years of hell. Let's just say that gun does not leave anything behind. So Deku first shoots his adopted father. Straight in the head, by the way. Also, since they're in a mansion on a hill, like, the gunshots can't be heard. So, you know, this is going to be pretty easily sent. Then, he goes after his mother, who he drains of all her blood and then shoots her head off so she doesn't become a ghoul. You know, just a little revenge. And this one, he doesn't, this one, he aims at, but he doesn't do it. Also, the reason the sister hasn't heard the gunshots is because, I can't BS my way out of this one. She just didn't hear the gunshots because she wasn't home. There. BS my way out of it somehow. So when she gets home, she doesn't notice that they're dead or not. She just thinks they're asleep. Deku is sitting behind her with his gun drawn, but he decides against it and just says, no. You know. He wanted to, but he's not going to do it. So he just puts his gun away and, you know, disappears. Also, they changed Deku's name from Izuku to, Draco? No. I was going to call him Draco, but that's, you know, copyright, probably. Neko, yeah. From Izuku to Neko. So, Deku goes to where his mother lives and knocks on the door. And, you know, Inko would answer it, and she'd ask, who are you? And Deku would say, my name is Izuku Midoriya. They get a blood test to check if it's actually him. Comes back positive. Deku's now living with his mother, and he's very happy about it. So he ends up, for the rest of his middle school years, going to Bakugo's school. And since in the way that they managed to hide Deku murdering the two assholes is that they just you know, made up some random murderer. So, you know, bratty bitch is off in foster care. Don't worry, she'll be coming back. She'll be coming back. So yeah. Anyways, moving on. And they will have realized that Deku was kidnapped by the Nekos, so that's why they went to go arrest them, the two parents, but found that they were dead. So she'll be back. Don't worry. Deku's gonna get her revenge on her. It's not gonna kill her. She's just gonna get folded, basically. Like everyone. So, by the way, Deku has the Alucard abridged kind of mentality. Basically, he hates everyone equally. Except his mother. And Alucard, and Ceres. And Integra. So when Deku gets into school, like, they also allow him to wear whatever he wants. Because of the abuse he went through for 15 years, so they kind of think, like, because he never really takes off his hood or glasses. And because of his red eyes, he kind of got picked on, they thought. They thought that it was his quirk that gave him his red eyes. So they allow him to wear his glasses. They have him take down the hood, though. But, they allow him to wear his trench coat and all that. Because they think it's a coping mechanism to kind of help him, not explode and freak out. So, when Deku gets there and sees Bakuro, he already gets vibes like he's gonna be a problem. So, Deku's right now just kind of being chill and, not picking on anyone. Then Bakuro, during PE, throws the first punch. Now, Deku does change for PE, it's just that he always has his glasses on. So, Deku will be wearing a school uniform in UA, but they allow him in middle school to wear that because they think, like, okay, well, it's almost the end of middle school anyway, so what's the point of wearing a school uniform for? So, yeah. So, Bakuro in PE tries to throw a punch at Deku. Deku just dodges it. Deku looks at Bakuro and says, "It's not very nice to throw a punch at someone who doesn't expect it, And Bakuro then throws an explosion. Again, Deku dodges. He's like, "And using your quirk. Listen, I don't care how many explosions you throw at me. You won't hit me." And Bakuro's like, "Yeah, well, I beat you in any time. I'm the king of this place." He's like, "Well, let's see how kingly you are." Deku's getting ready to throw hands with Bakuro and just forward his shit. And the teachers try to stop this, but, they just decide, like, since Deku does have this, like, I don't, like, bad boy mentality, if he sets this up, maybe he'll be left alone. So the teacher's like, he's mentally and emotionally unstable, they think. So I'll just leave it to him. Deku doesn't even use any of his powers. He just forwards Bakuro. And I don't mean, like, forwards him a little bit. I mean, he full on, like, does the laundry to that boy. Like, Bakuro's clothes are cleaned, washed, and folded. So, Bakuro, he's fucked. Like, he got destroyed in that fist fight. And he says, "Some king you were. A true king would have known that this fight was wrong and would have retreated. I guess that makes you a false king." As Deku's walking out to go get changed and head to the principal's office, because, they are still making him do that, he's like, "Hail to the king," before he leaves. And everyone all of a sudden just bowed to Deku. He used vampiric mind control there. Now, no one doesn't know why they did that. But Deku only used it on one person, and that was Bakugo. He could still walk and get up. Everyone else, though, like, that, like, survival of the fittest instinct that took over them. And just said, bow to him. He is a king. And just, they did. And, you know, Inko would come pick Deku up because, you know, he's not suspended or anything. They just want him to leave for the rest of the day. You know, give him time to kind of compose himself. And Inko would ask, who'd you get into the fight with? And he'd say, some Katsuki, whoever the hell. And she'd say, Katsuki Bakugo? And you know, he would say that he didn't want to fight, but the guy kept pressing. So, you know, she tells Mitsuki about that, and Mitsuki gives, Bakugo an earful. And I'm talking like, who can I use here? I would say Chi-Chi earful, kind of. Like, what she gives Goku whenever he goes off to try and train. So, yeah. So, while they're sitting down for dinner, Deku's looking at the food, and he's like, he's just kind of looking at it because, remember, he's a vampire, so he drinks blood. And he'd say, Mom? And Inko would be like, yes, dear? Deku would say, my quirk makes it where this kind of food doesn't feed me anymore. And she'd be like, oh, okay, well, what does your quirk require you to eat? And he's like, it's not eat, it's drink. He'd say, I'm gonna say there is a quirk, like, it's called vampire quirk, but it's a very rare quirk. And that's just vampires' covers to, you know, get blood. Like, it's not an actual quirk. It's just, you know, it's a cover for any vampires to get their blood. And he'd say, I have a vampire quirk. You know, vampires usually do have red eyes. So she'd be like, oh, okay. So, you know, Inko would, you know, go get some blood for Deku and he'd drink it. And blood isn't, like, it's like animal blood, so it's not, like, super cheap. So that's kind of to help Deku out. Like, just so he doesn't have to go out into the forest every night and get blood himself. And, you know, Integra and the Hellsing organization knows about vampires using their powers as a quirk for cover. But no one knows the true extent to a vampire's quirk, because usually they just hide. And they're not well known. Deku's going to be the first vampire hero. And just take a guess at what his hero name's going to be. In the comments down below, I'll give it a heart. Just saying, it should be obvious. But if I come up with something better before I put out part 2, which I probably won't. Like, if you guys, like, want to try to come up with a good hero vampire name, by all means, put it down in the, comment section down below. But I just plan on calling him Alucard for his hero name. But, you know, I don't really want to do that since Alucard is Alucard. I will be trying to figure out another, you know, hero name for him. So until I do that, that's kind of what his hero name is going to be. It's not set in stone. But if you guys got a hero name down in the comments down below, please put it in. Or, put it in my Discord. I have a Discord, guys. Join it. It's free. And if it's not free, I will figure out the whole Discord thing. But it should be free. 110%. And if it's not, I'm going to be a little pissed. But yeah. Moving on. So, you know, end of the school year comes around. Deku's Deku's reputation as the king has kind of, people are afraid to fight him because of what he did to Bakugo. Bakugo wants to go around too with Deku for revenge. But he ain't gonna let that happen. So, when the teacher comes in and does the whole throw the papers up in the air, I know you want to go on a heal course. But Bakugo isn't doing his whole, speech. Because Deku's there. And Deku will shut him down immediately. And he knows it. Because Bakugo isn't going to try to gamble with whatever Deku's quirk is. He ain't going to take that risk. So, when the teacher says, we have 2 students from this class applying to UA, Bakugo already knows who it is. Everyone knows who it is. He'd say Katsuki Bakugo and Izuku Midoriya. Bakugo is, not understandably pissed. He's, we all know he's pissed. And everyone's kind of looking at Deku like, can he really become a hero? And Deku will hear the whispers and say, listen, I know I have this reputation of myself being the bad boy or tyrant of a king. But I'm not. That was me pissed off. Because this guy decided to challenge me to a fight when I was minding my own business. Listen, I'm actually a nice person, so don't let my being able to beat him with my power without using a quirk scare you. We all can become heroes. Just, you just gotta train for it. And, everyone would be less afraid of Deku and more cheering him on at this point. Bakugo would try to fight him after class, again. And Deku would just say... Deku would be sitting in his, chair. And Bakugo would blow up Deku's, notebook. I'm gonna borrow a Team 4-star thing here. Because I love that scene. It was in episode 2, I believe? Yeah, episode 2 of the Hellsing Abridged. I'm borrowing the scene. Deku would just sigh and say, hello? And he'd say, I challenge you to a fight. Bakugo would be saying, like, you didn't even use your powers, it's unfair, you only won because of luck, like, going off on that, and just being a dick. And Deku would just say, oh my god, yes. And Bakugo would be like, what? And Deku would say, oh, I'm sorry, I just like the dirty talk when someone's sucking my dick. And Bakugo would get even more pissed. And he'd be like, what'd you say to me? I'm trying. And he'd be like, I'm trying to challenge you. And he's like, and I see you're trying to challenge me. And I'm failing. But you see, this blonde little shit walked up to my desk, blew up my one-of-a-kind notebook, and is now trying to impress me like I'm the alcoholic stepfather. And Bakugo would go to blow to, bring explosion down to Deku, and Deku would just put a sword to his throat, and say, so be a sport, and grab daddy another beer. And everyone's looking at Deku. And Deku's got the same smile as Alucard does, just a little wider. And they'd be trying to figure out where Deku got the sword. And then they'd realize, because, Deku doesn't wear his gloves while he's writing in his notebook and stuff. Because if you have ever tried to write in either, like, full-on, like, normal gloves, it's hard. And they'd see the tattoo of the sword. And they'd be, so that's a part of his quirk? And Bakugo would be like, he'd just lower his hand and walk away. And he's like, this isn't over with. You won't make it into UA. And Deku would just say, Deku would just say, "Don't forget to write me." And Bakugo, he would just, like, blow the door open as he left. He's like, I'm gonna have to deal with him later. Deku would just make his sword disappear, and he'd grab his book bag and just walk out of class. No, he's taking the normal route home. The sludge villain. I'd like to point out, Deku also always has his gun on him, but it's hidden. Like, you can't see it unless Deku actually grabs it. So as Deku is walking, home, Deku keeps it hidden very easily because it goes in, like, the holster for his gun goes inside his trench coat. So that's the only thing out of the UA school uniform he won't have on is the coat, because that's where his gun is. He has a secondary holster, but he's waiting for his other gun to come in, because it's being custom made and everything. Now, the gun is black with a bit of red on it. I'm going to explain what his other gun is, too. And his other gun is white with blue on it. Oh my god. Sorry about that. Had a cough. So, as he's walking home, the sludge villain would try to attack him. Deku would turn into bats and disappear. And the sludge villain would be looking for where Deku went. And he'd be like, "Really? I gotta deal with this now." And the sludge villain would go to attack him again. And Deku, he'd say, release restriction arc level 5. And Deku would make a whole red kind of dome. Like, no one can get in, no one can get out. And the sludge villain's looking around and, like, wondering what's going on. Deku would be like, your powers are wasted on someone like you. Using them to try to kill someone, take their body, use them as a puppet. People like you make me sick. You can't even escape a simple trap. I'll be right back. Oh my god. So, as I was saying, by the time All Might shows up, Deku has knocked out the sludge villain with just fear alone. And Deku's just sitting there looking at the sludge villain like, pathetic. You turn your entire body into sludge, but yet you can't escape. Weakling. And Deku would go to leave. And All Might would be saying, "Hey kid, how did you defeat this villain?" As All Might, bottling up the sludge villain. And Deku would say, "The villain barely counts as he barely counts as a light workout. I don't know why you had so much trouble catching him." All Might would be like, "Well, his entire body's made out of sludge, so for me, who can only punch, has more trouble landing hits on guys like this." And Deku's still on his bit of a bullshit right now. But once he sees it's actually All Might, he'd be like, and Deku would snap back to reality. And be like, "Oh, All Might, I'm sorry. It's just that guy really got on my nerves. Talking about how he's gonna steal my body and use it to escape and all that." And Deku would just say, "My quirk is very versatile. My quirk is a quirk that's not known much about it." And he'd be like, "Oh, so kind of like my quirk." And he'd be like, "Yeah, it's only known by name. All Might's quirk isn't known by name." And he'd be like, "Oh, what's the name of it then?" And he'd say, "My quirk is vampire." And All Might would be looking at Deku like, "So you have a vampire quirk?" And All Might wouldn't ask too many questions, but he'd think that, okay, vampire quirks must be able to deal with sludge villains easily. When really, all Deku did was... Alright, found Deku's hero name. If someone puts a bad name down in this, down in the comments or in my Discord, and I like it, I'll use it. But for right now, if part 2 shows up before you guys comment, Deku's hero name is the Dark Prince. I mean Dark King, my god. No, Dark Prince. Yeah, Dark Prince. I forgot Alucard's a thing. I don't know how. I got so many things going on in my mind, everything gets jumbled around, so you know. So Deku's hero name is the Dark Prince, because Alucard would have been the Dark King, Saris would have been the Dark Queen. You know, just saying. So, All Might would say, well, good luck to you in your endeavors of becoming a hero. And he'd be like, thank you, All Might, have fun. Getting that sludge villain back to its person. Sludge villain does escape and grab Bakugo. Deku does hear the explosions and wonders like, what the hell was that? So Deku becomes a swarm of bats, goes to an alleyway, and he walks toward the crowd and he sees Bakugo grabbed by the sludge villain. Now Deku's pissed that weakling managed to get away from the #1 hero. So Deku just starts casually, nonchalantly walking toward the sludge villain. And when the sludge villain sees him, sludge villain gets terrified immediately. And Deku would say, you are going to drop him. And the sludge villain would be like, no, take one step closer, I'll kill him, I swear. And Deku would just say, do it then. Not murder yet. Add that to your charge, I dare you. That'll give me a reason to not hold back. And, you know, the sludge villain, once he hears that, he immediately starts shaking in fear, and he's not knowing what he's doing. Deku's using his mind control not his mind control powers, but like using the fear in psychology games to mess with the sludge villain, to make him do what he wants without using the mind control power. And Deku would continue on that a lowly piece of filth like you will never be able to escape someone like me. I can hunt you down to the ends of the earth and kill you with ease. I choose to hold back because I want to become a hero. But don't think for a second that if you take that kid's life, I won't take yours in retaliation. You will be burning in the deepest bowels of hell. Right next to... And he'd say right next to Hitler for killing a kid. You know, the sludge villain has let go of him at this point. And the sludge villain would go to attack Deku. And, you know, the sludge villain actually hits Deku. And he's actually made like a sludge blade. And it goes through Deku. And Deku would just say, that's a shame. You've activated my Alucard. Another thing from Team 4 Star. I'm going to be referencing a lot of Team 4 Star references here in this one. And that's basically Deku saying, you fucked up. If you hear Deku say that, you're doomed. And next thing you know, the sludge villain is just being condensed into this little ball. Deku's using vampire telekinesis. And Deku is right now healing because the sludge villain's blade has retracted. And now the sludge villain's just a ball. And he then wraps that ball in, I'm gonna say there was a plastic bag. He just wraps it in. And the sludge villain can't escape it. There's no holes whatsoever. Deku floats the sludge villain over to him and hands it to the hero. He's like, this time, make sure you actually know what you're fighting. before he just turns into a swarm of bats and disappears without a trace. Now, All Might saw that. No one knows who he was except Bakugo. And Bakugo's realizing the full extent of Deku's powers. And he's realizing, like, maybe I can't beat him. Because that's Bakugo's reality check to him being, I'm not the greatest. But that doesn't mean he's not going to try and beat Deku. So he's going to start training. So Deku also grabs his book bag with the bat swarm. Well, no one noticed it. No one noticed a bat, like, struggling to carry a book bag. At first. Because the bat didn't have much momentum to begin with. So when it's trying to get momentum, it has some trouble. When it's the only one. But a few more bats come back to help it out. Like, just imagine, like, one bat struggling to fly with a book bag and then, like, 3 breaking off from the swarm coming back to help one bat with a book bag. And just, like, going back to reconvene with the swarm to go back to Deku's home. So, when Deku gets home, he has his book bag on his back. No problem. And he just walks into the house nonchalantly, puts his book bag by the entrance with his shoes, and takes his coat off, sunglasses, you know. Just kind of heads into his room and chills. Alucard teleports into his room and says, "Hello, Izuku." And Deku would look over and be like, "Oh, what up, Alucard?" And you know, Alucard got used to Deku not calling him Master. Like, he even calls Ceres just Ceres. He doesn't call him Master or nothing like that. No, it's just what he does. And Alucard would say, "I have a target for you." Well, Integra does, but here. He'd be like, "Okay. I will silence it tonight." And he'd be like, "Okay." It was last seen in the old suburbs. It's one lowly creature. Oh yeah, before I forget, here's your other gun. It's, again guys, it's a 45 Colt 1911 with a extended barrel. And a C4 kicker, explosive silver bullets with a black tip. It could do the same thing as his other gun, but it's only white and blue instead of black and red. So the stock and the metal is black with some red lines on it, and for the other gun, it's the stock and metal is white with some blue lines on it. The blue one goes in his left hand, and the black and the red one goes in his right. So yeah, Deku now has both his guns. So Deku says, "Hey mom, I'm gonna head out for a bit. I should be back later tonight." And you know, Inko's okay with this because Deku did tell her about Hellsing and what happened to him. And you know, Deku is saving people by taking out these vampires. And Inko's okay with this. Plus, Deku can't die. He's explained that to her. Like, he just can't die. So, she's fine with him going out and hunting vampires. So, when Deku finds the vampire, it's feasting on a person, drinking their blood. Deku shot it once in the shoulder. And says, and the creature looks back at Deku. It's a female vampire. And Deku looks over at it and says, "Filth like you are the kind I love to kill." And you know, the vampire would try to run away, but Deku would just teleport in front of it. And he'd say, "If you truly were a vampire, then you would turn into a fog or a swarm of bats to travel, and not run like a peasant." And you know, she'd fall back and start crawling back, and she's at a dead end too, because Deku cornered her. And she'd be begging for her life, saying, "I could pay you," and stuff like that. You know, you look to be young. You must have had a experience yet. And she'd go to, you know, unbuckle Deku's pants, but all she'd be met with is a gun to the face. And you'd say, "Burn in," and he'd say, "Do me a favor when you get to hell." And he'd say hello to O'Malley. Now, O'Malley is the vampire Saris killed. And he'd pull the trigger, and boom, vampire is dead. Deku shows no mercy to vampires like O'Malley in that vampire prostitute. I don't care about being demonetized. I just care about, you know, getting canceled on my channel. So, you know, I'll probably put a disclaimer in this, that in the description down below, that this is not for children. Probably should have said that at the beginning. Whoops. Oh well. Hopefully it doesn't get taken down. Worst case scenario, it just gets demonetized. But I ain't in to make money. I'm just in it to make you guys laugh and have fun. So, you know, Deku would return home through teleportation. And, well, first he would teleport to Integra's office and say, "Target has been silenced." And she'd say, "Good work, Izuku." And she'd say, "How are you enjoying your new gun?" And he'd say, "Fits me like a glove." And, you know, Deku would then teleport home. Deku doesn't like teleporting if it's a short distance, but if it's a long distance, like, he'll teleport. Unless he's using it to intimidate his foe. So he'll teleport around to scare the shit out of his enemy, but that's about it. Like, flying from UA to his home is what he does. He won't teleport, unless, like, he's running late or something. So, for the 10 months as well, Deku just takes out vampires, really, in trains. So, I'm not really going to cover all the vampires he takes out, but there's one I'm going to mention. This one attacks, you know, Deku's kidnapper sister. Now, Deku at first is reluctant to save her because of the hell she put him through. Hold on. Something's updating and I don't know what. Okay, it was just a Twitter update. Oh yeah, I also have a Twitter. Go follow me on there. At Fire Renegade. I've tried to put at Fire King, but it wouldn't work because it was taken. So it's at Fire Renegade. My Twitter account though is at Renegade Fire King. So yeah. Moving on. So Deku does save her by just easily shooting the vampire when it tries to bite her. So she does get covered in a bit of blood from the vampire, but nothing, the bullet doesn't hit her or anything. And she's trying to figure out what happened. And the vampire's body's just gone as well, because Deku teleported that way. Deku would, you know, teleport behind her and say, "A little late for a walk, isn't it?" And she'd turn around and say, "Oh, it's you. You ran away 7 months ago. If you hadn't done that, maybe my parents would still be alive." Deku would say, "Wasn't my fault your parents were murdered. If anything, you just want me to join them." She'd be like, "Yeah, I do. At least that way I know you're burning in hell too." And you just point out, "Listen, you are a spoiled brat. You made my life a living hell for 15 years. I could not care less if those two are dead. But listen, you are lucky I decided to save you tonight. I could just let you bite it, but no, I saved you. So, next time... Oh, and by the way, if you tell anyone about this, I will make sure you join your parents and the murderer who killed them in hell. And Deku would just turn into a swarm of bats and fly off. Like, that's Deku's declaration of war against her. Like, I see you, like, if you go to UA, basically, we are enemies. Because, you know, Deku did hear that she was going to UA. From, his mother. Because she's kind of been keeping tracks on, you know, bitch face. So, yeah. Entrance exam comes up. Deku's walking into the, you know, entryway hall. And Deku's kind of looking at the gate and is kind of shocked at how big this place is. Like, from just, like, on the ground level. Like, he saw how big it was from the sky when he flew there, but still. Like, it looked massive. It still looks massive even when he's on the ground. So, you know, Deku doesn't trip or nothing, but, instead of him almost tripping, it's, ooh, who am I gonna... You know what? No one's gonna trip. Because I remember the person I was gonna have trip doesn't, Momo, she doesn't go to a regular entrance exam. She, you know, she's got the accepted thing, like the whole, you know, in by recommendation. So, Adoy. That's my bad. So, Deku, he goes in, finishes his test, no problem. And, you know, he goes into the art. Like, he finished before anyone else. Like, he's just in there chilling right now. And he's just waiting for the presentation to start. Like, he's got his sunglasses on. He's got his hood up. He's also got his feet on the desk, too. Like, he's just, like... He's just in there, just chilling, just like... When's this thing gonna start? You know, President Mike would walk in trying to get ready, and he'd see Deku there, and he'd be like, hey, he'd say, the test is down that way, and Deku would be like, I know, I finished already. And, you know, and President Mike would be saying, like, are you sure you're confident in what your answers were? He's like, and he'd read out one of the questions and answer it correctly, and he'd be like, President Mike wouldn't say it's correct, but he'd be like, okay. Like, President Mike's like, how did... Another thing Deku is, has a photographic memory. That's just something I'm giving him. You know, that's gonna come in handy real soon. So, yeah. Everyone comes in. Deku still got... Like, Deku put down his feet after... another person walked in, and he just, like, kind of has his hand under his chin. Like, you know how in school you would usually have your hand on your chin, like, when you're trying to sleep? Like, it's like that. Only, he's not asleep. It looks like he's asleep, but he's not. So, you know, after the presentation starts, Ida does his whole bullshit thing about how, you know, the test and stuff, how there's improper whatever the fuck, I don't know, Ida just being fucking Ida. The know-it-all bitch with the stick shoved so far up his ass it comes through his mouth. Ida would look over at Deku and say, you over there, wake up so you actually pay attention. And Deku would just look over at Ida, and Ida all of a sudden just tenses up. He's like, because Deku gives off that I will kill you, bitch. He'd be like, I am paying attention. How about instead of judging someone from how they look, you sit down and you pay attention. And Ida would be like, also, take off your glasses and hood. It's disrespectful to the teacher. And Deku would just stand up. And he'd start walking over to Ida. Just the sound of his... Why did I say he was wearing shoes? His boots. Because I forget Alucard wore boots. The sound of his boots hitting the floor in that empty room and echoing is like terrifying. You'd say, listen, Four Eyes. I choose to wear my glasses because of my quirk. Everyone else here has pretty normal eyes, right? A few people, they don't mind their eyes. But me, I don't like my eyes too much. And I choose to hide them. And Ida would manage to untense up and he'd grab Deku's glasses off his face. And manage to pull down his hood. He'd say, well, you're meant to be respectful. And Ida immediately shuts up because Deku's just looking Ida in the eyes with this, I'm going to kill you, motherfucker, look. And he's like, listen, it's not nice to grab other people's things. And he just take his glasses back. Now, I'm going to give you one chance to apologize before I send your ass across this room. And Ida would be like, and he was going to say, I'm not apologizing to you, you disrespectful person. But he'd say, I'm sorry. Because that fear is taking over, and his survival instincts are kicking in. Deku would put on his glasses, put up his hood, and just tap Ida's cheeks, and be like, that's better. So Deku walks back to where he's sitting, and he says, you may proceed. Ida sat back down, and President Mike would be like, okay then, well, that really should be all. That you should avoid the 0-pointers and collect as many points as you can. So I'll see you all out there. Do your best. Remember to go beyond. He doesn't even finish his sentence with enthusiasm. He's just like a plus ultra. Because Deku just showed how scary he can be. So Deku's waiting at the gate to begin. He's still wearing his clothes. Like, he's the only one who hasn't changed into anything. Now, Uraraka's trying to get to the front to kind of get a head start. Deku's kind of just sitting in the middle. And she'd bump into Deku. And she'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. And she'd stop because she'd see it's Deku. And she'd, tense up with fear. And be like, it's okay. And she'd still kind of be looking at Deku in fear, and Deku would just wave his hand and be like, hello? You okay? And she'd snap out of it and say, oh, sorry, yeah, it's just that, And Deku would be like, you don't gotta be afraid of me. And I'm not a truly scary person. It's just that when you make me mad, I'm gonna be angry. So she'd be like, oh, well, okay. Like, she'd kind of go to walk to the front, but he'd be like, are you trying to get to the front? And she'd be like, yeah. And Deku would say, listen, you want to get in there, right? And you want to be the first one to the robots, correct? And she'd be like, yes. And Deku would be like, alright. Here. And he'd hold out his hand. And she'd be like, what are you doing? And Deku would say, listen. My quirk allows me to teleport, so, we can get in there before anyone else. And, Uraraka would say, sure, and take his hand. And, she's blushing a bit, because, she's holding some stranger's hand. And Deku would also say, by the way, my name's Izuku Midoriya. And she'd say, Ochaku Uraraka is my name. President Mike would say, go. Deku and Uraraka disappear out just disappear and appear by the robots, and Deku and Uraraka start destroying robots. And Deku kind of sticks close to Uraraka to kind of give her some help. So, you know, they're next to each other, really. So, when the Zero Pointer shows up, they're working as a team as well. So, when the Zero Pointer shows up, Uraraka just get trapped under the rubble. Deku kind of just destroys the rubble that almost falls on them. And Deku says, can you make this weightless? Like, he'd hold up, like, a piece of, you know, like, metal that he's gonna throw. And he'd be like, yeah. And she'd be like, yes. He'd be like, okay, good. She'd make it weightless, Deku would float up with it, and he'd chuck it straight into the robot's head, effectively destroying the robot. The robot doesn't fall or nothing, it just kind of, you know, just shuts down. So, together, collectively, well, not collectively, but since they were kind of watching each other's back, collectively, they both got the same amount of savior points, which is 45. Deku has more villain points because he was able to destroy the flying ones, which were worth 3 points, I believe. Uraraka could only get 1 and 2. So, you know, Deku got first, Uraraka got second. Bakuro got put in third. Deku's kidnapped his sister, fourth. But that's still enough for all 4 of them to get into Class 1A. Now, Minotaur is not in the story. His perverted ass is being replaced by Deku's kidnapped his sister. Let's just say this. Deku is going to be laying... Let's just say Deku's going to board her in the Heroes vs. Villains, because that's when that's going to happen. Okay. So, Deku got his acceptance letter, and he shows up around the same time Uraraka does. Because Deku decided to walk there, and he found Uraraka by the gate, and they decided to work for Class 1A together. So they show up roughly around the same time. Ida and Bakuro are still fighting. You know, Deku's kidnapped his sister. I'm gonna give her a name real quick. We're gonna call her Michelle. So Michelle tells Ida to shut up and stop being a know-it-all dumbass with a stick up their ass. And, you know, Ida would start getting in it with her too. Uraraka and Deku would just both kind of go sit in the back. Because Deku just likes the shade and being in the dark. The sun doesn't weaken him or anything, but, you know, he decides to be in the dark a lot. Uraraka is also in the back, but she's sitting, like, at the other side of the room by the door. Momo is sitting next to Deku, just reading a book. And I'm going to give Momo more of a... She's still very smart and very collected, but she's a bit of a teen. More on the teen side, you know? So, what happens is... Momo is reading a love story between a vampire and a human girl. No, it's not Twilight. This is just some random book I'm coming up with. Also, if you guys are wondering what noise that is, it's my Nerf gun. I just have my Nerf gun, like, sitting in the corner of my room, where my bed is. So, you know. So, Deku looks at the book and says, Don't believe everything you read in books. And she'd be like, what do you mean? Vampires aren't weak to sunlight. The only weakness is silver. And she'd be like, okay, whatever. And that's Deku trying to be helpful, but he'd be like, okay then. So, when... Whoops. So, Aizawa wakes up from Ida and Bakugo and Michelle still arguing, and he'd say, alright, quirk assessment time. Everybody would be bitching. Deku would just get up and, just teleport out of the room, and he'd be like, you all should be more like that kid. He didn't argue, he didn't do nothing. He just got up and teleported. Don't see how that's going to help during the quirk assessment, but whatever. Say, also, and, everyone would get down there, get changed, and be like, yeah, as I would say, oh yeah, by the way, person in last gets expelled. Everybody would be like, afraid. Because that ain't good. Now, Deku, since he was first, he throws the ball first. He uses basically a combination of telekinesis and just his strength to get it up into whichever part of the atmosphere of Earth has no gravity. So once it gets up there, it just keeps going and reaches infinite. So, as I would say, infinity. So Uraraka and Deku tie for first in that. And Deku gets first in everything else. Overall, Deku's first. Michelle is second to last. Hagakure is last, but, he says, listen, no one gets expelled. Everyone except Deku and the people in canon go what? The reason I said that is because, she's gonna have a bit of a part to play in this. She's just gonna have beef with Deku, basically. So, during lunch, Deku decided to take off his sunglasses for a bit. Uraraka and Momo joined Deku because those were the only open seats. And Momo is looking at Deku's eyes and sees that they're red. And she'd say, oh, you have a vampire quirk. And Deku would be like, yeah, so? So Momo's kind of fangirling out and say, so your quirk has a weakness to silver? And Deku would say, no, not exactly. The weakness to silver is it's kind of like a allergy, kind of. Some people may have it. Like the vampire quirk, he says, most people usually have that weakness to silver, but I don't. It's very rare. Like someone being born with different colored eyes. Hold on, guys, I'll be back. Alright, I'm back. So, she'd say, oh, so you don't have a weakness to silver, but most other vampire quirk people do. And he'd be like, yep. And she'd be like, oh, that's neat. The reason Momo's fan going out is because she's a bit of a vampire fan. The books have kind of filled her mind with, The book isn't Twilight, but it's got the vampire Twilight bullshit from it. So as Deku would say, you want to know a real fuck-mothering vampire? Talk to me. Again, Team 4-star reference. Like I said, I'm going to be referencing a lot. So basically, also Deku's origin story was a nod to Ceres' origin story from the Hellsing series. That isn't a Team 4-star thing, that's the Hellsing thing. So, you know, little nod to Saris there. Who is my favorite character in the show besides Alucard? Alucard, Saris, and Water are my 3 favorite characters. Integra, I could take a leave. Oh yeah, I forgot Anderson. Alexander Anderson. You know. I was about to start singing the Team 4-Star song they have, which is a parody of something, I don't know. But then I realized, hey, YouTube wouldn't like that. Cancelled. You know, like, fuck. But those are my 4 favorite characters from the show. Because Walter's a badass butler. Anderson's a badass, fucking... I don't know what you'd call him. I mean, he's a priest. Which, you know... The only reason I like him is because he's a badass vampire hunter. Alucard is just Alucard. And Saris is just like that... Well, Saris, actually. Alucard's Alucard, Saris is Saris. Anderson and Water are just Anderson and Water. I like them all for their characters. Integra, I could take a leave. I don't mind her, but kind of wish she wasn't there at the same time at times. So yeah, moving on. So Heroes vs. Villain comes up, and All Might says we're going to be doing teams of 3 because, you know, All Might was watching the cafeteria cameras, and he noticed most of the cafeteria people, everyone sat in groups of 3 and kind of talked. So he's decided to place those groups into, you know, a team of 3. So it's Deku, Uraraka, and Momo versus Bakugo, Ida, and Michelle. Oh wow, that kind of just lined up perfectly too. One team with 1 guy, 2 girls, and another team with 2 girls, 1 guy. Holy hell, I didn't even mean for that to happen. So, Deku's team is heroes. Nah, fuck that. No, Deku's team is villains. Bakugo's team is hero. And Momo and Uraraka and Deku are coming up with an idea to defend their room. And Deku says, well, I can teleport. And he'd say, listen, I have a plan. Let's barricade this room completely off. Bakugo's explosions, they're impossible. Bakugo's explosions, he can blow through walls, so we want someone here defending a place which he can't break through. So I'll stay by the bomb. You 2 can scout around the building. And the girls would ask, why are you staying by the bomb? He'd say, my quirk allows for both good defense and offensive abilities. I can basically trap them in a room that's an illusion. They think it's real, but it's not. And they'd be like, okay, do you think you could just do that with the entire building after they walk in? And Deku would just slap his head and be like, yeah, that's a better idea. So basically, their plan is to just use Deku's trump card, or Alucard as he calls it, which is a Team 4-Star reference. Well, not one of his trump cards. He has a lot of trump cards, but he just calls them all Alucard. Because, you know, because he just likes referencing his mentor that taught him these abilities. So, once they enter the building, Deku says, releasing restraint level 5. And the entire building becomes completely different. So, so basically here's what happens. Deku takes Bakugo, Uraraka takes Ida, and Momo takes Michelle. Momo beats Michelle easily, because she doesn't expect Momo's ability to counter hers, which Michelle's quirk is basically her quirk is Her quirk is ice. Yeah, there we go. Ice. So, you know, that's her quirk. Uraka beats Ida because, you know, she makes Ida float. And she's able to rock Ida's ship because Ida can't grab a traction off the floor. And Deku fords Bakugo easily. Like, again, he does Bakugo's laundry, but he also does he cleans Bakugo's entire clock. Like, that thing was covered in dust, spider webs, and fucking gum, and Deku cleaned it to make it look brand new, kind of shit. So, you know, but Deku just wiped the floor with Bakugo, so he's out. All Might declares villains win. So, you know, Deku's team won. Bakugo team got absolutely clobbered. And Deku would, you know, would restrain the, you know, since all targets were silenced, he would restrain his ability. Would stop it. Why did I try to come up with some bullshit? I don't know. I never follow what I do, so just bear with me. And then again, if you guys enjoy my videos, then usually you guys do bear with me. Like I said, this one's going to be going to the USJ attack for an apology. So the original was an hour and 30. So this one's actually going to be a little shorter. Actually, nah, it's going to be a little longer or shorter. I don't know, probably shorter. So Deku is leaving school after, you know, the Heroes vs. Villains. Oh wait, gotta include this. I always include it after Heroes vs. Villains and not after the them testing their powers after the entrance, the internships, because I just feel like it's a way to have them clean their clocks. So, as I said, Michelle replaces Mineta, so Michelle finds the whore that's a looky-loo, and she's talking about it, and Deku can hear them with his vampire hearing. Another Team 4-star reference. Sarah says, I can hear the Motley Crue with my vampire hearing. So, you know, Deku's hearing them with a vampire hearing. He'd be like, Deku would walk over to where the whore is at, and he'd say, I got this. No, some of the girls would be saying look through it, others would say don't. And when she tries to go look through it, here's what Deku does. The school does allow Deku to have his guns, so Deku loads his guns with a rubber bullet. Because the school knows about his Hellsing profession, thanks to Hellsing letting him know. They ask Deku why he has guns, and he'd be like, I don't know. The coat kind of showed up with my quirk, so, and these were in my coat, so, you know, guess it's part of my quirk. And Deku can summon his coat to him. It's more like he just teleports it to him, but he pretends like it's a part of his quirk, so he can just have his guns on him. So it's got rubber bullets in it, and you know, she goes to look through, sees darkness, and she'd be like, "Is there a poster on their side?" Bam, hit in the eye. They're like, "We got another one." You know, no one else tries it. But, yeah. That's gonna hurt in the morning. Actually, it's gonna hurt right now. So, you know, she's using her hand as an ice pack because that hurt. And Deku's walking home to, you know, just go home. Momo and Uraka catch up and say, good job, Deku, and all that. Kind of just shaking hands with him, saying, nice job, you did good doing it. You know, they all patting themselves on the back. You know, just having a good old grand old time. Hold on. Sorry about that. Heard someone making a noise. Is it going? Yeah, it's going. Okay. So, USJ time. Actually, hold on. I want to put this. Deku, Alucard, and Sailors went to go clear out a hospital that got overrun by ghouls in Ireland. Not Ireland. Fuck. Where was I gonna put it? I lost my train of thought. Oh, in America. Which they take care of it easily in the vampire. So, you know. They all got into a fight with the Anderson too. So, you know. Deku wins the fight though after Alucard and Ceres are both out of commission. Because, you know, sword fight. Anderson sees Deku as a proficient sword fighter, and you know, he gives Deku like, all right, fine. I guess all you filthy heathens aren't that bad, as he calls them. So you know, Anderson would leave Deku, Alucard, and Ceres would return to Helsing, say target has been silenced, Deku would explain the whole Anderson thing, then return home. So, you know, Anderson's keeping his eye on Deku because, you know, he sees Deku as a good opponent and a worthy challenger, even though he's a vampire. And he's okay with Deku being a vampire. You know, Deku actually enjoyed the fight because he's the first person besides Alucard or Ceres to be able to stand up to him. So, yeah. USJ time now. For real this time. So, you know, they show up at the USJ. 13 does a whole bullshit speech. Portals open up. All the villains come out. With ghouls as well. Because, you know, I'm going to say some of the League of Villain members are vampires. Is a vampire, one of them is. So he's got an army of ghouls. And Deku would be like, Mr. Aizawa. And he'd point to the vampire and he'd be like, okay, go. Because, you know, all the teachers know Deku's Helsing. And Deku would just start walking down the stairs. Like, in the slow motion fashion. Like, in Helsing Ultimate, how Deku was Alucard was walking down the hallway with, the SWAT members. Like, he's just kind of walking like that. And, you know, the villains are looking at Deku like, what the hell? And a bunch of them would charge, and he'd be like, alright, it's go time then. He has both his guns drawn too, and he shoots any villain that gets in his way. Nothing fatal, obviously, because Aizawa said you only kill the vampire and the ghouls. Nothing fatal to the villains. And Deku would be like, understood. So, you know, the villains are getting their shit wrecked. Deku's destroying the ghouls as well after he finally gets past the villains that get in his way. So, Deku's just mopping the floor with the ghouls. And the vampire would say, the Dark Prince. This is where Deku gets his name. Deku would be like, that's not my name, but it's got a nice ring to it. The vampire chosen by the Dark Queen. The one that's able to take the place of the king. I will not allow some poor filth to take his place. You know, because vampires be vampire bullshit. And Deku would say, who sent you? And he'd be like, you have to win a fight to figure that out. He'd be like, win a fight against you, you filthy piece of trash. That's easy enough. Deku doesn't even use his guns. He just turns into a dog. He just turns his arm into a dog. And he's just winning the fight. Like, he's blown off both the vampire's legs and torn off one of its arms. So as he was trying to climb the stairs, to get away from Deku, he'd be like, regrow your limbs. Get up. Fight. Or you're not a vampire. The vampire would call Deku a monster. He'd be like, no, I'm the Dark Prince. And Deku would shoot the vampire. So, vampire gone. Nomu would charge at Deku. Deku just cuts the Nomu in half, like, straight down the middle. Shing! He goes to, take down Tomoru. And, Kurogiri would just teleport them out of there. And, all the villains, all the ghouls are dead, the vampire's dead, the villains are incapacitated. So yeah, all that leaves up is for the cleanup crew from Hellsing and the police to take the villains away. And Integra's there, and that's why I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to leave you on a bit of a cliffhanger. So yeah, I apologize for that, but gotta do something to keep you guys entertained. Besides, this Hellsing, not this Hellsing one, this wife Deku was Alucard. It's probably gonna be one of my favorites. So yeah, if you guys have enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe to the Fire Legion, turn on notifications so you know next time I post. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Renegade Fire King. Well, those are my things there. They're both Renegade Fire King, Instagram and Twitter. Join my Discord. I'll be telling you guys when I post on my Instagram, on my Twitter, and on my Discord. So join up there so you guys know when I post besides just YouTube. But yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.